If you struggle with a lack of self-confidence, you need to hear this. I feel like everyone at some point in their lives do deal with some sort of lack of self-confidence or lack of self-esteem, and that can cause a big hindrance on not only your relationship with your friends, but partners, as well as just networking in general if you're not self-confident. Self-confidence does come naturally to some, but for most people, it has to be attained and developed like any other skill. And before you can actually start working on your actual confidence, you have to find out where the root of the problem is and find out where the lack of self-confidence is actually coming from. Hold on. Before we hop into all the juicy stuff and everything we're going to talk about today, please, if you can, leave us a like and subscribe. Would really appreciate it. Some great content coming in the future. Let's get into it. So what actually leads to a lack of self-confidence? And before we actually get into these points, something that you need to do while we're having this conversation is you really need to look at yourself in the mirror and really find out what the root of the problem is. And you need to really open up your heart and your mind and be open-minded to be like, okay, what's actually going on and why am I feeling this way, right? So at the beginning, it's gonna be surface level. And these are things like your appearance. Are you comfortable with your own skin, the way you look, your haircut, stuff like that? 2, your physical shape. Like, are you comfortable with, maybe you want to lose weight, maybe you want to gain weight, maybe you feel like you have skinny arms and you want to have bigger arms. That was actually an insecurity that I had growing up. Was I was always super skinny, had a fast metabolism, and was never really able to put on weight, right? But I'll be talking about how I conquered that later on in the video. Next one, this is a little bit deeper, is what are your peers and your family environment saying and influencing you? Maybe you're going down a different path than your siblings or family members expected you to go to, or you want to pursue a different dream that's different than what they had originally envisioned for you, and that is playing a role on your mental. Or maybe your friends aren't really being supportive of you and your dreams and goals and ambitions and just what you're doing right now. That's another thing. But now to get into really a little bit deeper stuff and stuff that can really fuck up people's mental, if we're being honest, and that's stuff like your bad breakup or bad academic and work performance, poor finances. Maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're not sure how you're gonna put food on the table next week. That's a big one. Your overall mindset and positive thinking. Are you practicing gratitude? Things like that. So everything we just talked about and listed off are all things that can lead to a lack of self-confidence. But the things right now that we're going to talk about are some of the signs where you can kind of point out in your day-to-day, like, hey, maybe I'm lacking some self-confidence here, right? And one of those is thinking people are better than you. And that's a big one. And something that I struggled with growing up as well is not really being confident in your own abilities to accomplish a job, task, subject, whatever it may be, because you think, oh, like, I'll never be as good as Janet. I'll never be as good as James because, they're so much more talented than me. They've invested more time into me. And yes, you know what? Maybe they are better than you at the current time and place, but that doesn't mean that you cannot get to that same point. And the reason I say that is because everyone is capable of doing anything you want to do as long as you put the time in and the work in. So no one is truly better than you. You can really accomplish anything. 2 is being too self-critical. There is a fine line with this, and the reason being is because when it comes to self-improvement, being critical of yourself is important, but to a certain degree. Analyzing what you're doing wrong throughout the day or what you're doing wrong on an activity is a good practice, but being self-critical to the point where you are just you're just being in critical condition, you can't move forward because you're like, I'm not good enough, this isn't good enough, and it's just bullshit. Like, you just have to realize that, hey, when you do something, good enough is perfect. For 99% of things, good enough is perfect. Number 3, we have not taking note of your accomplishments. And this is a big one. Like, if you win a competition and maybe you do something really cool or you did something outstanding in the workplace, like, you should be proud of that. You really should be, own up to it, treat yourself to something nice because what you did is actually awesome. But if you're not actually taking note of that and realizing that, hey, I did something good, like, you really do need to practice some gratitude and be thankful for, hey, not only did I do a great job, but other people are appreciating that I did a good job and I actually won something. Next one's a big one, and it's really just not keeping up with your appearance, at least for the bare essentials, right? And really from a guy's perspective, like just basic grooming, you know, like cutting your nails, wearing deodorant, you know, trying to smell a little bit good, and trimming your beard, you know, getting a haircut every once in a while, or whatever your hairstyle, you know, needs to at least, you know, look good. And really just basic grooming, you know. And the reason being is because oftentimes if I was to go out and let's say, you know, maybe I haven't cut my nails or I forgot to put deodorant on, I don't feel comfortable in my own skin. So imagine like I give off a different energy and I don't come off nearly as confident. And it's really just something to consider, is at least be doing the bare minimum to keep up with your appearance. And I feel like this one right here is a real hidden killer of self-confidence, and that is just not having plans for anything at all. And the reason I say this is because oftentimes when I talk to people and they don't have confidence is because they feel like they have no control over their lives. And really, I think the best way to go about really fixing this is just by setting up a goal or dream, finding something that you really want to work to, and then create a plan and accomplishable steps to actually achieve that. Because you really need to feel in control of your life if you want to have a sense of confidence. So now that we've talked about, you know, what are some of the things that lead to a lack of self-confidence and some of the signs, well, how do you actually bounce back? And so one of the first things that you can do is to stop comparing yourself to others. Like, just cut it out and really just focus on you and the people that actually support you. And because when you compare yourself to others, everyone has their own destination, everyone has their own timeline, and everyone is so different. Your time is coming, and I think social media is a big contributor to this. Like, if you feel like people's, you know, maybe some of their tweets are bringing you down, or like you keep comparing yourself to the Kardashians, whatever, just hit that unfollow button. You know, stop putting that image and that picture in your mind. Just cut it out and just focus on you. The next thing is really, you have to understand that you can only control yourself, your actions, and your decisions. The people around you and the events that happen to you are out of your control. You cannot control your brother's decisions, you can't control your roommate's decisions, you can't control your family's decisions, and you sure as hell can't control the decisions of some random guy on the street, right? All you can focus on and control is what your decisions are. So you really just need to encompass that hey, all I can dictate is my personal life, so I'm gonna make the decisions that work out best for me, and it's gonna make me a better version of me. This third one's a big one, and it's really touching on a point that we talked about earlier, and that's just creating an environment of support and positivity for yourself. Because this is such a big role, especially on your mindset and just mental in general, is because if you're around people who do nothing but bring you down, call it, you know, your little dream or the little thing that you're trying to accomplish, or they're not supportive of you and uplifting you and encouraging you to keep going, you need to cut them off. That's family, that's friends, that's just random people around you. You just need to get out of there. Like, seriously, you need to cut them off. Even if they're old friends, you need to cut them off, because trust me, there's so many people in the world that that would be willing to support you and be positive, uplift you, and even give you ideas to better what you're doing, that there's no time for people that are just going to be toxic. Just cut them off. So now that we're on the bounce back, how do we establish general self-confidence in everything that we do? So after you've had that conversation with yourself and you've recognized the flaws and the things that you actually want to improve on, it's time to create a plan. And that's really the step one of all of this, is creating a plan to improve on the flaws that you have within your life. So you really want to do this by setting up a bigger vision and setting up the actual end result that you want to achieve, whether that's a certain financial, goal that you want to get to, or you want to look a certain way appearance-wise, you have a fitness goal, whatever it may be, right? After you set up the final destination, it's time to set achievable and bite-sized goals that you can set along the way and actually track your progress and see that, hey, I'm going on the right way. I'm doing the things that I need to be doing in order to get to where I want to be, right? But something you have to understand throughout all of this is that even though you have a plan of where you want to be, it's okay to fail. Like, you are gonna fail throughout these processes. Why you're learning to be the best version of yourself, like, it is okay to fail. And that's just one of the things you have to understand and really adopt within yourself. It's really just having a growth mindset that, like, hey, there's gonna be ups and downs, but at the end of this, I'm gonna be the best version of myself, and I'm gonna be unrecognizable to the old me. Another thing that you really have to understand when it comes to confidence is that a lot of it is really through experience. So if I was to sign up for a sales job tomorrow, right? If I was going to be selling decks and patios, that first appointment that I go to, even though I've gone through the training and everything, I'm not going to be super confident. I mean, yeah, maybe I believe in the product and I believe in myself, but I will be nowhere near as confident as I would be on my 500th appointment. And the reason being is just because experience is a big factor when it comes to confidence. So it's perfectly normal to be uncomfortable and nervous when you're trying something new, but just recognize that, hey, I will never get to where I want to be unless I actually try things, succeed at some, and also fail at some. But ultimately, experience does have a big factor when it comes to self-confidence. So to sum up this video very shortly, it's really two things. First is to identify the problem and see where the lack of confidence is actually really coming from. And the second one is to assess the situation, cut off anything that's actually, the toxic friends, the family, whatever it may be, cut them out, and then create an actionable plan to actually get to where you want to be in terms of your self-confidence and really what you want to be and look like.